Hello, everybody. Welcome to Tadaima, Terrace House Podcast, your weekly companion to your favorite show on Netflix. I'm Sick Boy Robert here, and I'm joined by Daily Wilhelm.
I'm not. I'm Konbanwa.
Jack Cepeda.
Hope you get better soon, man.
Thank you. And Colin Sparling.
Daily, what's sleepy boy in Japanese? Because that's me.
Nemui otoko no ko.
We are not getting off on the best foot, guys. We sound like a retirement podcast. Robert's sick. You're sleepy. Daly's half sick, eating a bagel. What are we going to do?
Let's not bring up the bagel.
Let's not bring up the...
Okay. It looked delicious. Yeah, burger
You had a different kind of delicious in mind, though, Jack.
Whoa.
Whoa.
Let's change the subject right now.
There's a fucking BuzzFeed Tasty video up in here.
I am a culinary fan, yeah.
Today we're talking about BuzzFeed, one of our favorite publications, I guess. But also we're going to talk about Risako and Masao. Everyone knows.
Hold up, Robert. Hold up. It's Risako to Masao.
Yeah, no. We're talking about them. If you've seen Opening New Doors, obviously you know how this all kind of boils down and ends. But what we've done today is we've watched their opening interviews and their exit interviews, courtesy of CostcoSubs. Thank you for translating those. So now we have a deeper understanding of what's happening behind the scenes and what they were feeling after the show wrapped up. And if you want to watch any of those interviews, they're going to be down in the show notes and description below. So feel free to pause here real quick, check them out, and then come right back so you can join us in the discussion. So, guys, I think one of the things I had to take away from this is with Risako, right? When she was going into the house, she sounded very different from what I guess I kind of learned from her as I watched her on the show. Because she came in with, bright-eyed, stars ready to go, right? She wanted to be a cover girl, like we don't really see as much like career drive of her on the show. And one of my favorite things is she was fully expecting a love triangle to happen.
Oh my gosh.
She was coming in, with the intent to have some sort of drama, right? She was definitely there to meet someone and hopefully fall in love. That was the goal.
Right. I think the biggest thing, especially it was kind of eerie watching the entrance and exit interviews one after another from her, because you could just see the stark contrast in like... This is pre everything that happened at Terrace House, and then post everything at Terrace House. It was just, I was watching a broken woman.
Oh my gosh. The worst thing she thought that would happen would be like she and another girl would like the same guy. And didn't she say too, she'd be like, kind of like, oh no, like you go ahead.
She had it all figured out.
She's so naive.
Dude, it's so weird.
Naive.
I can see her like practicing like things she's gonna say in the mirror and stuff. Like, oh well, when this happens, just like she just had it all planned out when she went there. She thought she knew how exactly it would go, and it was totally wrong. We come to find out.
Call the police! Call the police! I'm about to witness a murder.
I mean, regarding a love triangle, she also was thinking if it happened, she would declare war. She'd be straight up. Like, this is a competition, and all's fair in love and war, so let's fucking go.
Oh, man.
Dude, yeah, she was ready to throw a fucking roundhouse in there.
Now, you know what, guys? Now she kind of got caught up in a hate triangle in a way, not necessarily a love triangle, right? That's more accurate.
Yeah, kind of. Not even a little bit romantic, even.
It was more like a hate quadrilateral or something.
I hate rhombus.
Dodecahedron.
Because she was like, she was basically the theme that I noticed between both of these people's interviews, Masao and Risako, was like, it was basically Masao and Risako versus the world in the house for a while.
Yeah. No support.
Exactly.
Yeah. And, you learn this in Risako's exit interview, but I feel like her entire time on the house, it's always been her against the house in a different way. Before the sock incident, she was talking about how she and Yui would always go to bed at the same time. So it was kind of those two against the house because everyone else stayed up late doing whatever. And then, of course, post sock incident, it was basically her and Masao against the whole house. Kind of.
Yeah. What a whole mess, dude. And like, I was fully expecting that Risako's like exit interview was rough. I was actually surprised that she didn't dish a lot more dirty details. I thought there was going to be a little bit more finger pointing, honestly.
She just got crushed and died.
Yeah, dude. She was just like, I'm over it. I don't even want to think about this anymore, is basically the way she was coming at it.
Nah,
She was tearing up at the exit interview.
Oh, yeah.
I wouldn't even say tearing up. I say her exit interview is basically just her crying. Like over and over and over again about different things. Like, man,
She
what a
even
rough
said
trip.
like, "Oh, now I'm crying again."
Yeah. Real quick though, when we're talking about her intro interview too, one point that I thought was interesting was that, you know, she had just broken up with a guy. They were fighting too much. Her last boyfriend, and she's dated people that are around the same age or older, but she's never dated anyone that was younger. And I thought it was interesting where she was talking about past members. She said that Guy was someone that she was kind of gravitating towards, that kind of personality, someone who's carefree. And when I read that, I was like, wow, Kaito maybe? Huh?
Yeah, Kaito was right there.
Yeah, because we talked about how much Guy and Kaito had in common and stuff. So never really happened, but the seeds were sort of there. But she said she was open to dating someone younger, but never really did it before.
Yeah, well, the thing is, though, it's like like Guy and Kaito, they're the type of guys that like they're pretty oblivious, you know. I think for Risako to get with someone like him, she would have had to make it explicitly obvious that she wanted to get with someone like him, right? And there just wasn't ever that. That's why we never really got the opportunity to see anything between them, I think.
Well, do you guys remember there was like the first 2 or 3 episodes Risako was on the show? Kaito was like, but man, she's so cute.
Yeah, he was
Right.
gonna go for it. Like they had that whole discussion over beers about like, yeah, I'm gonna go for it. I don't care if you guys are also going for it. And now with the knowledge of like what she said about like, I like guys with like laid back smiles or whatever it was, and it's like that's Kaito, and it makes you wonder like they probably watch these like intro interviews.
Yeah, Kaito's like, damn it.
So they have that insider information, but I'm asking like, do you think that they watched these before and then they're like, oh, so she likes this kind of guy, these are her expectations, I'm gonna keep that in mind
It's possible.
now,
and,
getting to know her.
and maybe they got together and just realized they're better friends. I didn't really see. I mean, I know there was interest there in the beginning, but I can't remember any time where I saw tension between the two of them to where they might want to go on like a
Right.
formal date. I don't remember them ever going on a date. I might be
Yeah.
wrong.
No, they didn't. At least not that we saw. I don't think they went on a date.
Yeah, but he's so much shorter than her. That's what I thought shut it down. Like he's a short guy, even just shorter than average. You know, he's not just shorter than her. She's taller than average. He's shorter than average.
I mean, Guy was pretty short too, to my recollection.
Yep.
Yeah, who knows?
He was around the height of Kaito, I think. That's just my guess.
I think that's hamstringing her like in love is like this idea of like height, like physical attraction, that's definitely a priority, but like very specifically taller than her might be.
Yeah, I mean, you bring up kind of an interesting point because that is something that is difficult. I can speak as a woman. No, I'm just kidding. But
As a woman.
no, but you know, generally height can become an issue. Also, the more successful you are in your career can become an issue as well too, because you know, in studies they've shown that like women like to date either across or up in like social structure, and men like to date either across or down. So like the more successful a woman becomes in her career and professionally, the smaller and smaller and smaller the pool of potential mates there is. And so just a study I read, I just thought it was interesting. So yeah, you bring that up. Her height is definitely a factor.
Right, but that's not necessarily universal. Like, we can't say every woman wants a taller guy. You know,
No,
like
it's definitely not. No, I used to date,
Right.
especially in middle school. I was dating because girls were all taller than me in middle school. So I was definitely doing that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Puberty
the
first.
that's a control group we want to use. The people Jack dated in middle school.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. It's usually like you have to be pretty damn tall to be a woman and be taller than me. So
Yeah, whatever, 6-foot monster.
yeah.
One thing that stuck out to me with Risako's intro interview especially is she thought her last ex was quote unquote the one, which is such a, you know, abstract concept, but they broke up 10 times. Like they were on and off 10 times.
Holy Jesus.
And it took until the 10th time for her to be like, no, hold on, maybe
Actually,
not. Let's just not do this anymore.
Maybe this isn't healthy. I don't know. There's something telling me that this isn't.
Like, I've never been in that situation, but I'd imagine by the 3rd time, you should kind of have an idea.
Yeah. I mean, she's like, yeah, I couldn't see myself marrying him. I'm like, well, no shit. I hope not. Like,
Yeah, we've been married and divorced 9 times.
oh God. I blame like romance dramas and stuff like that because it's like that's the drama that has to happen. Like there has to be like fighting and arguments because otherwise it's just boring to watch people happy together. And then that's what I feel like some people might base their kind of like barometer of like what does a good passionate relationship look like? It's like, oh, they fight a lot, and it's like, oh, that's my relationship, so it's fine.
well, to some people, I guess if they ain't hate fucking, it ain't good.
Yep.
Let's just let that marinate
Just
for
let
a
that
second.
hang. It's there in the air.
Hate fucking. Hate.
Let's see. I'm going through her exit interview, and it's kind of funny. So when I was pitching us doing this episode for like you guys on the podcast before we did it, or we're doing it now, I fully expected a lot more Masao talk during Risako's exit interview, and they only asked her maybe 2 questions about Masao.
Yeah.
I mean, it's true. I mean, she basically talked about how he really helped her out in a really dark time in the house. Otherwise, she would have considered leaving. And then what happened between them and how she had to turn him down.
Yeah,
That's basically it, right?
That's when the tears really started flowing in earnest too, and I felt really bad.
Right.
And
I mean, quite frankly, I think it just came down to like she just, for the life of her, does not find him attractive.
I mean, it just shows me like how serious is it in Japan to be someone's boyfriend or girlfriend. Like, I mean, there seems to be like this whole ceremony where a guy has to do a bow and say, "Will you be my girlfriend?" Stick his hand out, and the girl has to grab it or not. It's just like this thing that carries all this weight. Like, couldn't they just date and just try it out? Like, what would be wrong with her going on a few dates with him, like in a romantic sense? Like, what would be so terrible about that? It just seemed to be like this big deal. I don't know. What's your guys' attitude on dating? Just casually dating? Is that like not really a thing?
I don't really take issue with that, but I genuinely don't think she finds him physically attractive.
Sure.
Yeah. I see it as less of a cultural thing, like, oh, it'd be like way too serious for us to date, because I think it's more of like their age, they're, he's in his 30s, she's almost 30, and it's like you got to kind of like buckle down at this point. And the way that she was talking about in the steamy bath with Yui, right, that the next person she wanted to date was probably the person that she would want to marry.
Yeah, and honestly, part of it too, part of the seriousness, I guess, of this whole "will you date me? Will you be my boyfriend, girlfriend?"
Skinny out.
Is part of it is probably the fact that this is on national Japanese TV. They've got to set this weird air of standards where it's not just people boning down. Like, if this were American reality TV show and people were clearly just fucking, I don't think it'd do as well in Japan. But here, there's a lot of that tension, a lot of that, oh, this is serious. This is a shoujo manga. Will you be my girlfriend? Kind of stuff. They become
a couple.
Yeah.
They are no longer individuals. They are
the sakura leaves fall.
Yeah. So I would bet it's one of those, because I mean, I think if you live in Japan, there isn't as much of that serious, okay, we need to fill out this paperwork. Will you be my girlfriend? Please sign it at the bottom. Date initial. Perfect. Now we can hold hands.
I mean, I was just reading an article recently. I'm sorry, I can't cite this the publication, but it was talking about how Japanese hookup culture now more than ever is like very strong and vibrant. Like, it's totally a thing. For people just to meet on an app, hook up, and have a great day. Thanks so much.
Oh, yeah. It never really occurred to me, but I never really thought about Tinder in Japan, for instance. I don't know if it's something different for them in Japan.
Tinder.
But yeah, I'm sure that's been a great way of circumventing the whole like quote unquote loneliness epidemic, they were having in Japan for a good long while. That's probably still going on in a lot of places. But yeah, like I wonder what hookup culture is really like in Japan. Because
I have to find that article again. Yeah.
Look, all I'm saying is if you're jam packing 15 million people in a city, they're gonna be fucking.
They gonna be fucking.
Why is this podcast so much about like hate fucking? They gonna be fucking.
I don't know. It's early in the morning where you guys are. I guess we know it's on your minds.
Mm-hmm. First thing in the morning.
Early in the morning, as in 11 in the morning.
It's a Saturday, so pretty early.
But I want to go back to Risako's feelings about Masao here, and at least I feel like maybe I gave her a bad rap during our run of our episodes when we were talking about actual opening your doors episodes. I had thought Risako needed to bring down the banhammer a lot sooner because right now she's mostly stringing Masao along. But in this interview, you really get the sense of she wasn't doing it out of malice. Mm-mm. It was truly out of this. I think she feels some sense of guilt, which really sucks. But, this whole he's done so much for me, he's such a great guy, but I physically cannot return his affection in the same way.
My next boyfriend I must marry.
Yeah, I seriously think it comes back to like, I think she likes everything about his personality and the fact that he's someone she can trust and all that stuff. But I think it just comes down to the fact that she just cannot find him attractive. I think that's just the brunt of it.
Yeah. And she was like, I was thinking about it and thinking about it and thinking about it. And I do feel like she really did give, like, what would it be like if we were together? Like, due consideration. But, yeah, any number of factors for sure where it's just like, I like him. I definitely like him as a friend. He's a very good person to me, but I just can't be with him like that.
The real tragedy here is that when you listen to Masao's exit interview, it's very evident that he blames himself across the board for everything. And it's just like, dude, holy shit. Like, he's like, I shouldn't have done this. I shouldn't have done that. I shouldn't have said this then. All the things wrong that he did and all the fault that he points back at himself. And that, to me, is the saddest part about the whole thing.
Yeah, because it was basically like, dude, you pretty much did everything you could. You put yourself out there, and she just, when it came down to it, she just couldn't,
Another interesting point is that in Wada's, we're just bouncing around everywhere, but in his entrance interview, he talks about, women say that they like a stout man, but that's just a complete lie. I can tell you now, after 6 years, they like skinny guys. They like fit guys. Don't buy the bullshit. Looks matter. Size matters. Looks matter. Height matters. All the things they say don't matter fucking matters. That was kind of like the overall theme of that. And it's just like, dude, you know what? Like, I kind of disagree with that assertion, because I think that if a guy is more on the stout side, it depends on what that does to his own intrinsic confidence in himself, right? Because I think women, not necessarily, some of them do prefer, larger, stout men, bear types or whatever. But if you having that type of body is going to cause you to have really low self-esteem and like slump your shoulders down and just not be assertive and, cause personality issues on yourself, then that's what they're not attracted to. Not necessarily. I know a lot of bigger guys that have a lot of confidence, that are boisterous and not necessarily loud, but they're they are self-assertive and they have no problem talking to women and going on dates and things like that. So I think it's more about what's going on with him rather than his physical stature.
Yeah, I actually agree with you, Jack. I was thinking that the whole time when I was watching this. I was like, I mean, that may be true in some cases, but there are definitely plenty of people out there that would find just about anyone attractive. I mean, the dude clearly takes care of himself, at least like hygienically, right? Like he keeps, his hair is neat, his facial hair is trimmed. I'm sure he probably makes an effort to like smell nice and keep clean and blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. So he's got that down pat. I mean, and what it really comes down to, is just confidence. And Jack put it pretty nicely. It's just like, as long as you just don't really care about what other people think and just like who you are, then people are going to be attracted to that.
And if Wada could take the confidence he has in his cooking, in his bass playing, and apply that to his interpersonal relationships, he would be all set.
I was really surprised when he said that he like wasn't fashionable too, and it's like that's just another sign of like you're not very confident in yourself, because I don't think he was like unfashionable. Certainly, I really liked his sweaters, and he said it like in the intro interview when he was wearing like that cool suit, like in the plaid, and there was like a sparkly shirt underneath.
Oh yeah,
and
that
it's,
yellow
like,
flannel. Yeah, that seems stylish.
That's like part of the performance, because it was like backstage or whatever. But still, it's like you're fashionable, cool dude. You just gotta you gotta own that better. But. And this might be like wrapping way back, but it was interesting though that you said that Jack, that he like blamed himself. But I also really feel that he wasn't doing that thing where it's like, if I had done this differently, it would have gone differently. He very much accepted like this was the ultimate result and there's nothing he could really do to change it.
Right. Like he walked in, like, even though right before the big, not confrontation, that's not the right word, but when he met up with Risako after the show, when he got her final decision, all that, he was sitting in the counter or at the table in the kitchen and he's like, yeah, I think it's like a 50-50 shot that, Risako and I are going to end up together. So fast forward to the actual time into this interview, he's like, yeah, I actually, in the back of my head, I was like, damn sure that this wasn't going to happen. Like, and then as soon as I saw her, I just confirmed my feelings. Like, I knew I was not going to walk away with that.
And
the girlfriend.
The ultimate tragedy out of all this too, the saddest shit was that in his entrance interview, he's like, I really just want to hold someone's hand. Yeah. It's been 6 years. God. I'll consider that a win. I can't remember the exact quote, but that was really like a goal of his. And then it would have been nice if I saw that before. And then the moment where he's like, can we hold hands? Should we? And she just laughs him fucking off of the planet. Like, why would we do that? Can't you see I'm holding my purse, my hands in my pocket? This is impossible.
Yeah,
that
at least
is so sad.
Dreams.
He
so
realizes
sad.
that in retrospect, though, right? He thinks back, oh, she had her purse on the side that was facing me, so it would have been very unnatural to try and hold her hand anyway. So, like, he knows what mistakes he made. So good for him for at least learning. So the next time he almost stalks a girl until she dates him, maybe it'll go better for him. Flashback
to the lost tape where Yui touches his hand and it was a big deal for him. She didn't even realize it happened. Damn. So sad.
So I liked his.
I wanted to pose a question to you guys about where his deep-rooted disconfidence, unconfidence, lack of confidence in himself is. Because when we go back to his intro interview, he talks about how, Gesu no Kiwami Otome started about 6 years ago. So he's been single the entire time he's been with this rock band that has only been in an upward trajectory since they started. They've been getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And he says, and I quote, I guess it doesn't matter how successful I am. I'm pretty sure that I'm the problem. And then he chuckles a bit and he says, I guess I'm unpopular. So part of me thinks that maybe he's buying too much into that, like, oh, chicks dig musicians vibe. And then now that he's a musician and chicks don't dig him, now he's super duper down on himself. But I'm curious what you guys think about that.
Sad boy.
Yeah. Daily?
Kanashi otoko no ko. Sad boy. Sad boy. Yeah, it definitely breaks the stereotype that, like, women just flock to musicians and they're all over them, etc. But I think it's less about, like, oh, he's like a recognizable face in the industry now, and like he has his own nickname that people, call him by Kyujitsu Kacho. But I think it does just come down more to, and I think he's right to recognize it, but he's not quite there. I think he's like, it's the confidence. It's just like, it's less about having that job to give you the confidence and more like, I'm going to get real deep here, like finding it within. Like he doesn't own it. He's just like, oh, I guess this is supposed to do this. And like, I feel like he's said that to people before probably. And that probably is in itself like, oh, weird. Don't say that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so another thing to add on to that too that I wanted to bring up. So like, I think part of what's kind of disarming his confidence is, I feel like part of that source is Enon, because I feel like the talks that he has with them just are really beating him down. You know what I mean? It's like, he's like, yeah, I think Enon gives me good advice, is what, you know, Masao's thinking. But at the same time, every time I've seen him talk to Enon gives him not great advice and is usually sitting there nitpicking everything that Masao fucking does. And so if anything, it's just going to make him even more self-conscious and beat down his confidence even more.
Keep in mind though, like the nature of their relationship, right? Like Enon also calls him a god in certain respects when it comes to bass and musicianship and all that. So he pumps him up there.
True.
When it comes to relationships, he definitely tears him down. And it makes sense because they're in a band together too.
Like,
so
what was that line? It was like, after watching Terrace House, Enon was like, oh, I was surprised that you were like just yourself. And it's like, what is that supposed to mean? How am I supposed to take that? Like,
wait, what?
Of course
What?
I'm myself. What's the problem with that,
that
Enon?
was kind of mean. Yeah, that was kind of mean.
Yeah. And even worse, he apparently, Enon told Masao after all of the Terrace House stuff was over, regarding Risako, apparently Enon said, yeah, I saw that coming. It's like, dude, what kind of friend says that? Like,
I know, but we all said the same thing.
True, but if I were Masao's friend, my first thing wouldn't be I saw that coming. It'd be, I'm so sorry, man.
Yeah, let's go get a beer. Let's go cry on our beers.
Like, let's cheer you up first, not, oh, you fucking idiot.
I
like,
know,
everyone
it's
saw
brutal.
this coming.
Maybe
You
like in the
sick piece of
background,
Yeah,
he's like, man, this bass line's gonna be sweet on this next record.
Yeah, it's like he's just trying to like boost the record sales. Where he's like, okay, I
Yeah,
just
he's
need
like,
to make
yeah,
Masao feel as shitty as
How
possible.
low can this go?
Right. Well,
mean-
and then he talked about like how he's gonna do like a one-man Gesu piece or something like that. Does that mean he's gonna do like a solo thing on stage? Is this gonna be by himself and play a song?
I guess.
Here's my conspiracy theory. I think that Enon really believes in the power of emotions and heartbreak, etc. And he didn't want to be helpful to Masao because he wanted that music that comes from the heart, the broken heart, and how much better that is. And so like he literally like gave him the assignment afterward. He's like, if you don't get with a girl, then you got to write a song because it's going to be awesome. And it's like, okay, like I could see that being like, haha, wouldn't that be great? Because then get it, because your heart's broken and musicians write really well with broken hearts. But he was like serious.
So we're saying Enon is trying to give Masao Taylor Swift syndrome.
Oh my gosh. He put
Without-
a blonde wig on him.
Yeah.
He's
but
like-
without Enon himself going through the harsh heartbreaks.
I think that with the short window of time that we were allowed and privileged to enter Masao's life, I feel like my takeaway is that he's really is tying 1-to-1 his confidence level with his physical appearance. And I've definitely, I'm speaking from experience, multiple times I've been in that boat, and what's going to happen is he's going to need to. I feel like the only way he's going to increase his self-esteem in interpersonal relationships is if he does, take the steps necessary to slim down and cut down. And it really doesn't. I think the irony is it really doesn't affect other people. I think how he looks, but it affects himself internally. So I hope he does whatever he needs to do. And if I'm wrong, then I'll accept that. But I hope he does whatever he needs to do to boost his confidence. Because one thing we've learned from these interviews is that, and from multiple interviews from other members, is that people learn a lot from themselves by even being in Terrace House for even a short time. They learn how people perceive them. They learn how they look and how they react, and they might not even realize it there in the moment. But when you see it, kind of in a third person perspective, it gives you a whole new outlook on the way you talk and stuff.
Yeah, just by watching yourself. I think I want by watching himself, I want the first thing for him to start with in order to have a better outlook on himself is stop calling himself gross. He says that a lot. He's like, oh, I'm gross. I watched
I'm
that and
the
I thought I was
gross old
really
man.
gross. Like,
Yeah, and we talked about that too on our like best members episode, where like that's the thing that would like make me not want to hang out with him so much. Is like all he talks about, all he does is put himself down, and it's just like, dude, like really, like come on.
I mean, at least he starts his exit interview by saying, "I need to be more confident." And I get that, and I'm gonna change moving forward, or at least try to.
Hope
So he's at least identified the problem. Whether or not he can identify a solution, I don't know. Maybe we'll see him next season. He'll make a cameo, and all of a sudden
be
he's
sweet.
super confident.
That would be
Yeah.
sweet. I would love that. I mean, they show him on that elliptical for like a hot second on if you don't skip the intro.
Yeah.
It never made it into the show itself, but it's like, well, he knows where an elliptical is at least.
He knows where to-
Are you saying like the more weight someone gets, the more they forget how ellipticals work?
Willingly
where-
forget.
they just can't see an elliptical.
Like, no, Taco Bell's over
It's
there.
not there. It's interesting though that we're talking about like you become much more self-aware from watching yourself, because sometimes I was like, Masao, you needed to rewatch your entrance interview, because you specifically said in that entrance interview that like you ruined a possible relationship once by just outright being like, oh, you're cute. And then that grosses girls out. And it's like, what was the first thing you did with Risako?
Yeah.
Literally that.
Is that necessarily a bad thing to do? To just be kind of like, oh, I think you're cute. Is that a bad thing to do if you're single? I don't know.
No, but I think the way he was talking about it is that he like set himself up as like, oh, he's just a guy that says stuff like that, versus someone that's like, honestly, like I think that you're beautiful. Like just someone that's like, oh, you're beautiful.
So it has to do more with like building credibility and trust than more than anything else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
I mean, you build a relationship there just naturally, and then the compliments can come out later and when it feels appropriate, just kind of like throwing out there that like, hey, you're attractive. I don't know. It's just not, I guess, a decent foundation to really start something like that.
I mean, all the girls did that for Noah too. They didn't even wait till he sat down at the table and started talking about Sana's like, marry me.
Yeah.
Hi, my name's Sana, marry me. Thank you. But that's a different thing, yeah.
right.
Going back to the gross thing, Masao does call himself gross again in the exit interview, but I think this is a context that I actually think shows personal growth. He does mention that he watched himself on Terrace House, and when he saw what he did, he thought, man, I was being gross.
Yeah, I think he's talking about like when I only imagine that he's talking about the parts where he's talking about like Risako's like lips and body and stuff like that. Maybe is what I was imagining him thinking of.
Yeah, and probably going even further into just how he came off as one-track mind. This is all I'm here for. I'm not here for anything else. Kind of vibe.
When they were making curry together and he was like, I found love. And it's like, oh.
This is an example of being blinded by love or blinded by infatuation.
I think one piece of my own personal philosophy is that I feel like if you go really way too hard and just looking for a relationship, that's when you end up overthinking things, or you find it in all the wrong places.
Definitely.
You know what I'm saying? You're way better off just letting it happen naturally as it can be anyway.
Yeah, agreed. Anytime, thinking back in my past, anytime that I was like, I should be in a relationship right now and try to make that shit happen, you can't just will it into existence.
Exactly.
And it never worked out well. It always ended similar to how it ended with Masao and Risako. But anytime where I was like, you know what, I'm going to focus on me. I'm going to like work out because I want to. I'm going to, do the things I want to do and not worry about it. That's when the confidence again like built up, and that stuff radiates out, and people can sense that. Just sitting in a room with somebody, they can get, it's very nonverbal. It's more nonverbal than anything else. And that's when people would approach me more than anything. And so then you have options, and you can act accordingly. But definitely been my experience, Colin. Good point.
So basically, date yourself.
No,
Date.
guys,
That's the thing.
literally,
Oh, no.
I was like,
What did I do?
clone yourself. No, but
Clone
literally,
yourself?
I was in very much the mindset, like I would tell people that, like, oh, I'm dating myself right now. And then I met Zach, and that's how I met Zach.
No.
Wait, so
Tell him I can't go out with you. I have a date with myself tonight. We're like,
is Zach your clone? Is that what you're saying?
yeah.
Yes.
I'm confused.
No, but I did at one point literally tell him, like, oh, I'm really dating myself right now, so I'm not looking for a relationship.
Oof.
What changed your mind? Did he just hound you down for like every day for 6 months?
Yeah, that's how that works.
No, seriously though. How did he change your mind?
Just hanging out and being like, oh, this is nice.
Just being around, just kind of being around in the background, and not being too pushy, right?
Yeah. Like we hung out during the summer, but it was much less like, oh, like, because I feel like, and this can tie back to what we're actually talking about too, is that relationships have to add something to your life versus take it away. And that's what the ultimate decision was when I was like, yeah, I'll be in a relationship because it added something to my life. And I feel like that kind of like gets forgotten when people are like, oh, I'm like just looking for a relationship. And it's like, but what does that add to your life, Risako? Like, what are you actually looking for here?
Yeah, and there has to be reciprocity too. It has to add to both people's lives.
Exactly.
In order for it to make sense.
Yeah, and I think that's why we have a history on the show of relationships just not lasting all that long, right? Because they leave the house, and then next thing you know, a few months later, we hear about so-and-so couple breaking up. And I mean, the fact of the matter is, that's just part of the consequence of a show like this. You're stuffing six strangers in a house, and more than likely the producers have an intention of at least two of those people dating. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And a lot of people go there looking for love. So you get a lot of forced relationships or a lot of personality traits that may be glossed over because it turns into, I guess, mermaid syndrome, right? Like,
Right.
What do you mean?
Explain.
Yeah.
Like mermaid syndrome as in like, these are the only women or the only men that I'm seeing around, right? Like I'm around them often enough and that's who I see the most frequently. And so like I might not have found them initially attractive, but now that I'm around them enough, like I'm starting to see something because I'm just not, making myself socially available.
I mean, yeah, geography and I'm going to just ignore that.
I'll explain.
Oh, go ahead.
No, yeah. So the reason why it's called mermaid syndrome is it's a reference to like sailors back in, I don't know, the olden days. Basically, they'd be out at sea for very extended periods of time. And so they would see like fucking manatees as mermaids. Basically, they would try to say it was mermaids. And that's where the whole thing with like pirates fucking manatees came from.
This,
and like
this
all that
beautiful
weird
woman
shit.
in the water, and it's like a manatee.
Right.
Yep.
Okay,
Exactly.
so two points here I want to bring up. So, geography and proximity to who's around you definitely is are two huge major factors in terms of who you date, who's available around. Totally, I agree with that. And also, a second point is that this brings up something pretty interesting, a pretty interesting phenomenon where, I mean, the lizard brain in our heads is very easily fooled by a lot of things. I mean, you see this play out a lot where if something positive and novel and exciting is happening, you're obviously going to have like a huge like what's the word, the chemical that makes you feel good in your
Dopamine?
brain? Yeah, you're gonna have a huge dopamine dump, and by nature of that happening, people that are close to you and around you in a cohort, you're going to associate those positive, happy, good, novel feelings with them as well too. Right. And then so if everyone's joining Terrace House, you're like, wow, this is awesome. This is so exciting. You're already naturally going to be feeling more positive about those people in the early goings anyways, until you start talking to them. And then it goes whatever course it does. And then I would assume if that's the case, then after everything kind of stops and ends, it's like, oh, no more Terrace House. Now you kind of associate, that kind of novelty wears off, right? The honeymoon period, so to speak, or whatever. And just kind of like, okay, well, now we're just two people in the world. We have a few 100,000 more Instagram followers, but other than that, nothing's really different. Now we're just back to our normal lives. And that might be a hurdle that some couples are having more difficulty getting over than others.
For sure.
Yeah.
What do you guys think about that stuff?
Yeah, and plus, like, going from living together to not living together can be a huge thing, too. Like Maya and Kaito ended up being, like, a long-distance thing, kind of. Not
But
really.
not really. No.
But they ended up, like, really wanting to avoid it anyway. But that's the harsh reality of it.
Yeah, I think it's a tough thing because not many people in the world can say they've experienced this. Like, I would say maybe around 100 people can say that, because that's maybe about the number of people that have been on Terrace House. But, you know, if someone were to ask you, hey, how did you meet your girlfriend? How did you meet your husband, right? They would not tell you, well, we met on a reality TV show where we were forced to live together, and then we saw each other every day until we liked each other, and then we dated. That's a very...
Can't relate.
Yeah, it's a very unique scenario.
It doesn't have to be an international TV show. I mean, think about this. Like, think about band camp, right? Think about summer camp. Think about I was sent 3 weeks to San Francisco and put in a hotel that my company owned, along with other people, and they gave us all like $2,000 in San Francisco. So there was things going on there too that was kind of crazy too. It could be all kinds of things. It doesn't just have to be an international reality TV show, but yeah.
Yeah, but nonetheless, I think there is something to be said there about how you fall in love with a person because of the situation around them and you, not necessarily the person. And Terrace House is actually a very good example of that, because as of right now, I'm pretty sure there are maybe only a handful of couples still together after Terrace House. I honestly can think maybe only one or two.
Yeah.
Noah and Sana, and that's all I can think of at the moment.
I'm leaving the window open for an open.
Well, you and I are very happy right now. It's soon after, but they have the best Instagram pictures ever of any couple that I know of.
Right. So I mean, it's tough to forge a long-lasting love, I think, in those kind of situations, because they're more than likely forged out of desperation or convenience.
Right, rather than genuine connection.
Or as we talk about a lot on the show, like the pressure that just inherently comes with being on a dating reality show too, the pressure to couple.
Yeah.
That's real too.
So in the end, maybe it's for the best that Risako and Masao never gave it the novel try.
Yeah.
The takeaway I got here is that they learned a lot about themselves, and I think that they both learned that they have a lot of growing to do in different aspects before I think they're ready for anyone. And that's a good thing. That's a positive thing, and they learned a lot about themselves, and they're going to continue to learn. And when the time is right is when it's right. You can't force it.
And as much as we're talking about, Masao learning a lot about himself, I feel like Risako did too, more in the sense of like how she interacts with people, and like she recognizes that even though she was kind of the eldest, she didn't really feel like it. She feels like she's a little bit immature in some ways, and it's like, that's okay as long as you can recognize that.
Yeah,
I mean, she even joked about how she's learning how an almost 30-year-old woman should actually speak.
Yeah, I was just going to point out to that too. She did bring that up, and it's just like, and those are things that she probably doesn't even realize she's doing until she sees it, sees herself doing it, and then it's probably pretty embarrassing. But even when we were in Seattle, I caught myself saying a couple things, and I was like, why did I talk like that? I'm the oldest person on this show. I'm like, I shouldn't be talking like that. Like, that's not how a grown ass man talks. I was literally
about to say same, thinking that's something I say a lot too.
Wow.
So are we going to start this podcast from now on as all of us just speaking very, very properly?
Yes.
Indeed.
Indubitably.
Yeah. Comrades.
I mean, I don't know, guys. I don't know if I could do the show if I couldn't say stuff like hate fucking.
Gosh.
Or Robert couldn't do the show if he couldn't say tonguing down.
Tonguing down.
I was just going to say, this is why we're not going to get sponsors, because we talk about shit like that.
That's right. We need to be proper now. Tonguing down from henceforth shall be known as membrane meetings.
We need to be a commercially viable podcast.
All I'm saying is this show that we're talking about isn't exactly like US advertiser friendly. They talk about some shit on Terrace House.
I mean, like for The Bachelorette, I've been watching The Bachelorette, guys. And that's on ABC Family, which is a Disney affiliate. Disney owns it. Disney owns everything.
Disney owns everything,
yeah.
And like there's some scandalous stuff.
Is there sexual content?
Do they tongue down?
There's sexual content.
Really?
There's dudes taking off their shirts. There's people making out, only having known each other for like 2 days.
I'm curious here. Legit curious. Is there like censored nudity in that show?
Yes.
Really?
Sometimes. Just like on,
Surprising.
not like that they film people like doing it or anything, but like there's an upcoming episode where like there's naked bungee jumping, or so it seems.
Risque.
There's like a big old
Okay.
sensor bar.
Okay,
So,
okay. A big one?
yeah. A big one.
That's funny.
So
All right.
I have
learned something.
one final topic I want us to ruminate upon regarding Risako and Masao before we close the book on this couple never to be. Toward the end of Masao's interview, they ask him what will happen with Risako in the future. What's your plan with her? And he talks about how they got some food together at Tokyo after the show. And that's the moment he realized she will never see him as a man, and that he just wants to be her friend now, to treasure that connection and to relate with her.
God, you could watch his heart breaking in his eyes as he said it.
So that's my question. Do you think their friendship will even last?
I hope for his sake it doesn't, because he needs to move on. And she's busy. They're both super busy. So I hope they're friends. Yes, I hope they're friends. I just hope he doesn't hold hope out. I hope his hope is dead for anything other than being a friend with her. That's what I'm
That's
saying.
the thing. If they like waited a while and then they got together and then just like shot the shit or like hung out every once in a while, that's cool. But the thing is, when you're fresh off of just getting denied or whatever like this, and then you're just jumping right back in and you're trying to act like you're okay with the friend zone, then it's just not going to work out. Because he's going to want more until...
Yeah.
And she's not going to give it to him.
He doesn't
And
seem to
it's
me like
just-
the kind of guy that's okay being friends. He'll
Right, at
agonize
least-
internally.
Yeah, and especially for right now, right?
Too soon.
Yeah, definitely.
It felt like the way he was speaking, it was like too painful for them to like hang out together, because he's just going to remember like embarrassing things that he did. So I think that's one reason why it wouldn't work out. And I think that's another reason why we saw Risako crying, is because like she made like a very genuine friend out of Masao, and he was really there for her. And it's like, that's one of the things, is that she can't really be friends with him because she can't reciprocate those feelings that he has had. And it wouldn't be fair for her to be like, oh, well, we're just going to be friends and you'll just have to pine or whatever.
Yeah.
Not that I'm a big believer in like the friend zone or whatever.
Right. To me, I think, this interview probably lasted at most 30 minutes, right? Like the production of it, the
Right.
actual sitting down and filming. So within this time frame, Masao went from, one of the very first questions we saw was about Risako, and he was like, she's so my type, very authoritative feeling. She seems like she has a strong personality. I love her voice. Her face is so pretty. Like, he was going on again about why she was the one for him at the house. And then to end the interview with, yeah, but I'll just be her friend. No.
Nah, dude, you full of shit.
No.
It's just not.
We've all seen this before.
Yeah, it's not going to work.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Nope.
we've all seen this movie before. Doesn't work out.
Yeah, I mean, like, I've had... And I think I've told this story before, so I'll just keep it really short. I had someone that, like, there was... that I was friends with, ended up being feelings there, and there was a time when, like, I was like, I'm sorry, I don't feel the same way. And so it was like, we took some time off, like a good amount of time off from talking to each other, because I, like, completely understand, like, after something like that happens, there needs to be a decompression time, essentially, right? And then we ended up talking again like a month or two later. Everything was fine. We've been friends ever since. Like, completely cleared out of that. So it's possible, but it's just right now it's way too fresh.
Yeah. It's just too fresh of a wound for them to do anything, I think, like in terms of any kind of connection, because any form of connection, I think Masao, like a little part of his heart is going to be like, but maybe there is a chance.
Maybe.
Yeah.
He seems
Yeah.
like a hopeful kind of guy, except for in any situation where he has to hope for himself.
Yeah.
That's the thing. He's so down on himself, and I just hope he grows from this, because he's fairly older, isn't he? Isn't he 31?
He's 31.
Yeah. Like, man, I don't know. I pray for that guy.
Yeah, he just focused on himself, dude, and the rest will happen naturally, like we've talked about already. He just focus. I mean, he kicks ass at playing bass. Just keep playing your bass thing. You're playing a big band.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
He has
like,
so much going for him.
That's what I'm saying. Like the dude is obviously fucking talented.
It's not like he's not a
he's
cat.
smart. He invents
Cooks.
Stuff. Like
Cooks,
right.
yeah.
Well, yeah, and also he has a fucking degree.
A
He has
master's
graduate
in
metabolic
Yeah.
syndrome.
Yeah.
okay, that's not a positive.
Oh,
No.
okay.
But I mean,
Robert, no.
One of his goals, we didn't really talk about this, was to be really close and have nice relationships with the guys in the house too. And then the first night, right, he snores, but like to his credit, he nipped that right in the bud. He took care of it. Lock, stock, smoke, and barrel. Boom, done. Dr. Snore. Thank you. Welcome to the home.
Yeah.
But it's like he's so like, like a problem, fix it, and it's like it just seems like he can't make that happen for himself. You know what I mean? Like internally.
Yeah.
It's just like, but I think he knows what he needs to do, and I'm hoping for the best.
Yeah, he's just he's thinking. It's almost like he's thinking too deeply about everything.
He definitely is.
You know what I'm
overthinker,
saying?
For sure.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He's definitely an overthinker. He sits there and ponders on things, which is fine. Like all of us should sit there and and ponder and do some some soul searching or whatever. But dude, he's going way too deep and way too often.
And I think part of it is just it's his personality, and it makes sense. He's a creative type. You can tell in the way he talks, the way he thinks, right? He will say things that literally only a musician could say, I feel like, because it's a little too
what was
flowery.
that one quote? Like, we don't need words.
Yeah, I was just like, all right, I get it. You write music. Okay, whatever.
Yeah, pretty much. And I mean, he definitely says his thoughts out loud a lot too. You know what I'm saying? Like very, very, like even stuff that he would say about other people, like the stuff he would say about Risako to the guys when he first got in the house, the way he talks about himself, right? Like he is not afraid to put his like deepest, darkest thoughts, even about himself, out there.
You
right?
kind of teased it out there that he could rejoin Tokyo 2020, 2019. And she's like, now I hope that he grows personally. He fixes things. He, does what he needs to do to improve internally, and then comes back with a vengeance. Because I really feel like in a different set of circumstances, with a different group of people, he could slay, for lack of a better term.
Slay.
Now,
I really think he could. He has a lot going for him. Kind of like Taka, like he just needed to be around the right people.
That's another thing, is that if not love, I want him to get that chance to like be really good friends with people, like the guys, because I don't feel like he got to be really good friends with Kaito and Io. I feel like he never really interacted with them, and I feel like that was just the vibe at that point in Terrace house. But I feel like if he had arrived when Taka and Shohei or even Shunsuke was still there, then they might have all been really good friends.
Yeah, and I totally would accept also if he comes back. I totally would accept him just holding someone's hands and getting butterflies. That'd be a win for fucking me, big time.
See, I don't really want him back as a member. I think he would be great as a cameo though.
I'll take either. I hope we haven't seen the last of him.
Fair enough.
Definitely. I still follow him on Instagram, so we'll see.
His foodstagram.
Yeah.
But I think that about does it for this After the House episode about Risako and Masao. If you enjoyed today's episode, feel free to let a friend know. Terrace House is becoming a bigger and bigger movement on Netflix and Twitter and Reddit. So spread the word, help people understand why this type of reality TV is a lot better than any American reality TV daily. And
I'm trying to convince my bachelorette group that we need to give Terrace House a chance. But there are some people who don't like reading subtitles.
By the way, there are some things that are fair game to be made fun of, and watching The Bachelor.
Yeah, no, that's fair. That's fair. That's totally fair.
So tell a friend to watch Terrace House and then listen to our podcast so they get a deeper, funner understanding of what Terrace House could be. And if you don't want to tell a friend, maybe check out leaving a review on iTunes. It'd help us out a lot. And if you do leave a review on iTunes, you have a chance of being read aloud toward the end of one of our shows. Jack, do you have a review?
I do. Yeah, I do. This one's a little bit longer one. This is from Chris in ATX. It was left on January 27th of this year. Perfect companion cast to a great show. How refreshing to discover a recap podcast that didn't turn me off or make me roll my eyes. I love that they produced an an episode dedicated just to the pondering of whether or not an American version of Terrace House could work. The references that these hosts drop, Viva La Bam, Flavor of Love, the new improved production value of Animal Planet. Wow, I thought nobody else remembered this. This show exactly the level of fun intellect at play in each show. I found myself wishing this episode was 3 times longer and am now power binging my way through the entire podcast with the same obsession as the Netflix series. Chris, thank you so much. He had a bonus comment here. Jack repping the Lone Star State and introducing the others to the Texas edition Ford F-150 had me cackling at the laundromat. Hashtag yeehaw, y'all. Chris, thank you so much for the very thoughtful and awesome.
Hashtag yeehaw, y'all.
That's Texas for you, baby.
Y'all.
But it's true. They have Texas trucks all up and down the roads here. And so, Chris, thank you so much for the thoughtful, kind, and well stated I can't talk, guys. Sorry. Review to iTunes. And so we are going to keep this tradition going alive. We are going to start reading reviews on iTunes or Podbean or anywhere else that you leave reviews for us. And so please, if you haven't yet, and if we add any value to your life, it would help us very much if you could leave us a review. It helps with visibility, helping other people see and find the show. And we really appreciate it. Thank you guys so much.
You know, now that I've been here in Seattle for longer than I assume when that review was first left or when we first talked about Ford F-150s, I can't think of a single time I've seen a Ford F-150 here in Seattle.
No.
Oh, I can. I've seen plenty of trucks.
I mean, you guys are right in the mountains, so I would assume there's a lot of all-wheel drive vehicles, I would think.
Oh, yeah. I still get many a hillbilly coming into work.
That's one thing, too. Oh, really? That's one thing, too, about Seattle. If you've never been, it's very hilly. It's a lot like San Francisco.
Yeah.
There's a lot of hills going on in that town, and I was not ready when I first got there.
I mean, like,
My
Colin and I
body is
literally
not ready.
live on a hill.
Yeah.
It's the worst.
Same.
Yeah.
Terrace House.
If you have any questions,
We lost Robert for a second.
If you have any questions, comments, theories, anything you want us to talk about on the show, any confidence boosters you have for Masao, email them to us. We'll forward it to him somehow, some way, maybe.
We want to read them for ourselves.
Yeah. If you want to email those things, please do at questions@terracehousepodcast.com. You can catch us next Tuesday for another episode of our show. This has been Tadaima. Thanks for listening. Itakimasu.
Email us at questions@terracehousepodcast.com and follow us on Instagram at TadaimaGram and on Twitter at TadaimaPod. Check us out on Facebook and YouTube at Tadaima, a Terrace House podcast.